empezar, ¿por qué piensas que la inmigración nos trata tan mal?
Una mujer pobre les representa gastos infinitos al gobierno.
Cuando se haga lo que tú dices, van a tener que pagarle seguridad social.
Respecting the law, and if you don't respect the law, you know what's going to happen to you.
¿Noticias hace cuánto agarraron una guagua llena de haitianos?
My name is Marcus Barrow, and this is The Breach Podcast. Good morning, good evening, whatever you're watching. My name is Marcus Barrow. This is The Bridge. Today, I'm very happy to receive a guest. He's gonna tell you more about himself. But when I was looking at his profile, I was literally inspired to see how nowadays you have young Dominicans involved in politics and how they're changing the narrative of their country. For me, as Haitian, I want to really have this conversation to help me understand the social framework of the political background of this country. Welcome, Orlando Salvador. Un placer.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure. Can you tell us, the audience, who is Orlando Salvador? You look young.
I'm young, yeah. I look and I'm young, yeah. Well, first of all, thank you, Marcus, for inviting me to your podcast, The Breach. It's my first interview in English, probably as a politician.
That's nice.
And in my whole career. I'm actually, I come from media. That's my area of expertise in the private sector. Mm-hmm. And this is my first podcast or interview, whatever you want to call it, in English. So that's good. I'm very grateful for your invitation.
Thank you.
As you said, I'm young and I look young.
Yeah.
These days, probably there are a lot of people young, but they don't look young. Yeah. You know, the stress
I know.
And the world is going very fast. Mm-hmm. But my name is Orlando Jorge Villegas. Mm-hmm. I was born in February of 1991, so I'm 31 years old right now. My grandfather, Dr. Salvador Jorge Blanco, he was president of the Dominican Republic from 1982 to 1986. Mm-hmm. So I come from a political family. My father, Orlando Jorge, we have the same names. Mm-hmm. Nothing original. Okay. He's a lawyer also, as my grandfather. I was the one who didn't decide to go through the law area of my family. Okay. I studied social communications. But my father, he's also a very well-recognized politician in the Dominican Republic. Right now, he's the Minister of Environment. Yes. Before, in the government of President Mejia, he was director of the Department of Telecommunications in the Dominican Republic. Mm-hmm. He was 2 times General Secretary of our old party, the Partido Revolucionario Dominicano, PRD. Mm-hmm. And all his life he's been involved in politics. So basically, I come from a political family. Mm-hmm. I was born in a political house. Mm-hmm. All I remember, I have very good memory of all these politicians going to my house. Yeah. I was, since a kid, I was a very curious guy. Okay. So I went into the meetings in my house. I was like there. I remember once Atuay de Camps. Okay. He was a very well-known politician. Okay. He was very friend with my grandfather. Actually, he was like the chief of staff when my grandfather was president. Nice. In some of those meetings, he was like, "What are you doing here? You're a little kid. Get out of here." I was like, "I'm curious, man. What are you guys talking about?" Nice. So I remember meeting Peña Gomez when I was a little kid. Okay. Because he was very good friends with my grandfather. Inclusive, when I was born, my mother always tells me that when I was born, I mean, were my parents, mm-hmm. They were my grandparents from both sides, mm-hmm. And then was Peña Gomez. Wow. He went to see me, he carried me when I was born. Okay. When I was like 2 or 3 years old, I was in a TV ad from Peña Gomez for his campaign to the 1994 elections. The commercial was called White Christmas. Okay. There's that video is probably in some archive in the Instituto Peña Gómez. There was a baby kid. There was a doctor like treating him. That was me.
Okay.
So what I want to say with this is that I'm 100% connected with politics since I was a baby to these days. I went to school here in Santo Domingo.
Okay.
Then I finished high school in Brazil. I have
Fala português?
Eu falo português.
Oh,
Sim.
que
Falo
bom,
português.
Que bom, que bom.
É,
Vamos falar um pouco de português também.
Então, se você quiser, a gente também pode falar
que
em
bom,
português.
Que bom, que bom.
If you want, we can try also Portuguese.
That's good.
I love Brazil. Brazil for me is like
Love
my
Brazil
second
too.
country.
Yeah.
My mother right now is ambassador.
How long you lived in Brazil?
3 years.
Nice.
But since I came back to the DR, I've been going to Brazil every year.
Nice.
I consider myself as a Brazilian wannabe.
They even like take you as a Brazilian.
Yeah. And I lived in Sao Paulo. I love Sao Paulo. I always sell to Dominicans because normally the Dominicans, we don't have in our mind Brazil. We normally have United States, Europe.
Yeah.
But Brazil is like, is very similar to Dominican Republic in the way people are. And Sao Paulo is the New York City of South America. And I finished high school there.
Nice.
Then I came back to the Dominican Republic, and I was in that dilemma if I wanted to study law or I wanted to study what I really liked, which was communications, corporate communications, media. I love media. My passions are media and politics, which are both also very connected. And I went to Pucamaima. I went to the communication school. I had a degree on social communications. Then I had a master degree in project management because when you study communications, you know, you develop a lot of creativity, strategy, how to talk in public, but you really don't develop some essentials like finance, accountants. And they don't teach us this especially in the communication school. They don't teach you that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do something different, something that really tried my intelligence in a different way. And I went to this degree here it was Pucamaima with Escuela de Organización Industrial in Madrid. I was like the only guy who wasn't an engineer or wasn't an economist all the guys that were in this degree were all somehow connected to areas that had to do with math or had to do with economy. You know, I was like the only guy who hadn't not even in my life made a process of accountants or hadn't studied anything with finance. So it was like a really, really challenge for me. And very important, Marcus, also is that before entering in politics, I wanted to develop myself in the private sector because in Dominican Republic, politics is not like a profession. I mean, like in the United States.
And I feel like here, everybody can just jump into
Exactly,
politics.
yeah. That's a challenge we have as a country. Because in the United States, for example,
you have to study. There's a whole process.
And maybe not only study, but you have like to enter the party. You have to have to grow inside the party. But you can, for example, you can study politics in the United States, and then you can enter to work with a congressman. So you learn since the basic things. Normally here we don't have that. And I also have another example. China. You lived in China.
Yeah.
For me, the Communist Party is a good example of how organized a party is, because they have steps for everybody who enters in the Communist Party. You have challenges. You have, you have to develop yourself inside the party to continue getting up in the ladder.
Yes.
So in this country, unfortunately, we don't have that professionalism of politics. So what I analyzed, I said, like, I need to go in the private sector, develop myself in the private sector, learn how to manage, learn how to work with a team.
And come with
learn how to be efficient, learn how to work with quality, and most important, learn how to develop results.
Nice.
Because at the end, politics is about developing results.
Yeah.
We have different visions, but in the end, you have to develop a result.
Yeah.
So we had a political class that ruled us for probably 20 of the last 22 years.
Yeah.
Before this government of President Abinader, that they didn't have much of them background in the private sector.
Okay.
So I think that showed us that we were in the hands of politicians that didn't understand
idea.
how the economy works, didn't understand how a businessman works, how an employee works, didn't understand how to develop results. So I said to myself, before entering politics, I want to be in the private sector. So I worked first as a journalist.
Okay.
I mean, I began at the first step in a media company. I was a journalist. I stood as a journalist for 3 years. That was a very important part of my life because I understand how really was this country.
Okay.
Because when you're in a bubble, you don't understand some things.
Yeah.
But for example, I was the journalist who covered the police. So I even saw people dead in front of me in some suburbs of the Dominican Republic. I went to I covered many protests of people that wanted their rights being reivindicated, and I covered Congress.
Nice.
As a journalist, so I understand how Congress works, being a journalist. And then I had a and probably the most important part of my recent life, which was I got the opportunity to be executive producer of a media outlet.
Okay.
And then I was, with 23 years old, I was in charge of that media outlet.
Nice.
So I stood 40 years there. I was in charge of 200 people. I managed budget. I needed to deliver results. You had the experience. Exactly.
Yeah. I think private sector and the whole public sector is a different dynamic.
It's very different.
It's
I mean,
different,
it's
yeah.
private sector is
It rules you.
Exactly.
It rules you, and it gives you like the I would say the discipline on how people should literally do things.
That was what I was looking, the discipline.
The discipline.
And just to conclude that time of my life, I stood 4 years in the media outlet. I also had TV shows and radio shows where I express my opinions.
Okay.
Now I have a podcast.
Nice.
But before I was in some radio and media outlets also sharing my opinions. And finally, I went out of that company, of that media outlet, and developed my own company. I mean, I got my own company of media production, of corporate communications. So at my last step in the private sector was how to have my own company.
Yeah.
What it is to have employees, what it is to pay taxes.
Manage people.
Exactly,
Yeah.
manage people, but importantly, pay taxes. How do
Yes.
you manage?
And people don't like entrepreneurs don't like to pay taxes.
And you understand really what is to pay taxes when you have your own company.
I know.
So then I make this crossover to electoral politics, and today I am in my first term as a congressman.
That is amazing. Okay, before I ask the second question, one of the reasons that I wanted to have this podcast, as a Haitian, as a young Haitian entrepreneur, and have this specific episode to talk about politics is really to, just like I said, where I came from, they tell me politics is not for young people. Where I came from, they tell me politics is for dirty hands. So when I came to DR, I was literally impressed to see how young folks, they were involved in the politics. Do you think, let's say, your background has influenced a lot? And would you consider yourself, let's say, privileged to be such a young congressman?
Yes, I think my background has influenced a lot because as I live in a political house. But there was a time in my life where I rejected politics because
Okay.
all I was seeing was bad things.
Okay.
Even in my house, I mean, I saw people betraying my father. I saw my father in difficult circumstances because he wanted to do good things, and there were people blocking him from doing it.
Okay.
So in the years like 2007, 2008, 2009, you talk to me about politics, I will tell you get the hell out of here.
Okay.
I don't want to know anything about politics.
Okay.
But my time in the private sector, I learned that if you don't take part in the decisions, somebody else will take part in your decisions.
Yeah.
That's that was probably what came in told me in my mind, like, you need to get into politics. Besides all the background my family has. I think I'm privileged in some part because obviously
Because we're gonna tell our audience again, Orlando Salvador, your grandfather was president
Yeah.
of the Dominican Republic, and now your father is a current minister.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think I'm a privileged guy in the way that the trajectory of my family has helped me get into politics. But it's very important for you to know that it doesn't matter what last name you have. You always have to push because there are people who don't want you to be in the place I am right now. So I'm going to tell you something interesting and something impressive. Where I had the most resistance when I was candidate for congressman was inside my party. I had people blocking me.
Okay.
I mean,
Because, and then you have to show them that you are.
exactly.
Yeah.
There were people like, oh, because he's the son of Orlando, they're gonna give him this post as candidate. Oh, because I don't know, because his grandfather was president. I mean, there were people who said that. But the worst thing is that those people, they knew my trajectory as a guy in the media, as a guy who also worked in the party, but behind the scenes. And I was like, oh my God, I will never imagine that where I had the most resistance to be congressman will be inside my party. So I had to be intelligent on how to manage that situation. You gotta be very cold-blooded, you know, because if you're gonna fight with these guys, I mean, then you're not gonna even be a candidate. Yeah. So my father, who is a person, I mean, my father is like my manager. So my father we have different personalities because he's very like calm. He's very a guy who like consensus. I'm a little bit more, I'm not so cold-blooded.
Okay.
So he told me like, you know, you just gotta focus. Don't let distractions get on your mind. Focus, you're gonna be congressman, but you need to focus. And inside the party, you need to manage those situations on the way these guys are not managing that.
Yeah.
You gotta be intelligent.
Because
you gotta tell them like, you know, probably they want you to fight them, but you need to sit with them and talk to them. So I neutralized a lot of people with that strategy. I was like, man, can we talk?
They want
me to fight.
Them,
so that, exactly.
You have to try to sit with them. I like that.
So, for example, I'm going to mention a specific case, and I think he speaks English, so he's going to understand. there is a person, very important person that works politics with me. His name is Miguel Campos. He's a traditional party member of our party. He has a lot of influence on some areas of my district. And when I launched my bid for congressman, he was one of the guys that was telling, now because this is Orlando's son, he thinks he's going to be congressman. He has to enter to my area. He has to talk with me, or if not, I want to go against him. And he really, like in WhatsApp groups and in social media, he was like very against me.
Wow.
So one day I had a guy who knows him. I was like, you know, I want to sit with Miguel. I mean, what's the problem? I don't even know him. Why is he talking about me like that? And we sat, and after a couple of meetings, he began working with me.
Nice. But I like that strategy because I feel like once people start applying this strategy, you win. Because you would always find these forces that would want to go against you.
Exactly.
But sometimes sitting with them and understanding why do you want to go against me? I think it's a good strategy. So
I want to mention in this conversation the president of our party, Jose Ignacio Paliza, which is also a young politician with a very amazing trajectory. He was congressman, he was senator, he's now president of the party, and he's the administrative minister of the president. Because Jose Ignacio, when I told him I want to be congressman, he defended my bid. And there were like 15 pre-candidates that went to talk to him and tell him like, we don't want Orlando to be in our ballot. And he said, like, you need to understand that Orlando has the merits, not only because of his family, but because of his professional trajectory. He's a young person. He needs the opportunity. And I think he's going to win. Okay. And so there are people inside our party that are helping young people to get inside politics, to bid for a candidacy.
Yeah, I see.
And
it's a whole trend.
exactly.
Yeah.
So the PRM right now is the party with the most young members being part.
38, no? 38.
For example, in Congress, we have 38 congressmen under 40, but of all the parties.
That's good. Yeah.
But probably of those 38, 20 or 25 are part of the PRM. Nice. But if you go to the central government, you'll see a lot of young people leading departments, leading ministers, or being important part of the government. So the PRM is a party that has opened its doors to the young people in the Dominican Republic.
So now let's see, you know, that you grew up with this household being very involved in politics. How do you see politics changing in DR right now?
Well, first of all, when my slogan as a candidate for a congressman was a new cycle, un nuevo ciclo.
Un nuevo ciclo.
I preached that we needed a new generation leading this country, leading it in the executive power, as we have right now President Luis Abinader, and leading it in Congress, and also as mayors and councilors, and councilmen and councilwomen. Before we got this government, we had a political class that managed the country as they wanted. They don't even care about people. They were totally disconnected from, for example, the medium class. I'm not going to even talk about the poor guys. They were totally disconnected with these people. So right now we're having, first of all, a president, a humble president. You know, a president that if he commits a mistake, he recognizes it.
Yeah.
That's very important. He leads with humbleness. He's not arrogant. He doesn't think he's a god.
Okay.
He talks to people.
That's how we should.
He shares with people, and he delivers results. We needed a president that his human nature, he will transmit it in his presidency. We have right now ministers that are developing their strategy and their vision with transparency, respecting the law. And if you don't respect the law, you know what's going to happen to you. Because this president, you could be his friend, but he's not going to support any corruption and any violation of transparency or of the law.
And just to add, I think like when a foreigner look at these type of, just like I say, when a foreigner looks at the way that DR is managing his politics, I think it's very good for them to come and do business, because all they see is like, you know what, it's a country that's promoting fairness. It's a country that is really trying to go against corruption, because we know corruption will always be part of politics.
Exactly.
Corruption it's always going to be part of politics. But to show people that here there are rules. If you go against the rules, then we are gonna make sure that you pay for that. And I think it's a good message. And as a foreigner, like I said, when I came here, that's something that I really like, that at least this government is sending this message to anybody watching, because people are watching. They're watching, okay, this past government have done this, but we are here because there are rules, and rules needs to be respected.
You know that right now, I always tell businessmen I share with, I believe a lot in what we call parliamentary diplomacy. I mean, I travel a lot. I get along with congressmen from other countries. I like to speak. I like to promote my country. So when I promote my country, I tell people around the world, you know, Dominican Republic right now is in a privileged position. Why? Because if you see what's happening in a region, I mean, in Latin America, and even in the United States, I'm going to include the United States, you have polarizations, you have populism rising, you have very radical extremists from the left rising in countries in Latin America. And the Dominican Republic has a president he's in the middle, you know. He's not an extremist, he's not populist. He's promoting the economy of the country, he's promoting investment in the country.
Yeah.
So when you analyze Latin America and you say, like, where can I invest with security? Where can I invest with transparency? Where can I invest with a government that's going to open the doors? This is the Dominican Republic right now.
And yeah, it is.
This is what we're living.
You can say it proudly. It is.
No, yeah, and we are right now, and I believe that the most politically, economically, and socially stable country in the region right now. Because I tell you, even the United States is having its polarization.
Yes.
And I'm very sad about what's happening in a country like the United States, which has to lead the world in transparency, and, you know, in leading the country in democracy. And right now, I think the United States has losing a lot of its position around the world because of internal debates that are not helping the country to be as great as it was before.
I think if we go into the US, I think the US is getting into too many things. They're losing focus on the country itself.
Exactly.
Okay, now let's say, you know, I did my little background, and because I'm very interested in politics. I've always been watching politics. And watching, let's say, the history of Dominican Republic, there's a very special case, Peña Gomez.
Yeah.
Peña Gomez, we all knew that he was gonna win. He lost the run because of his social race, because Peña Gomez was black. Do you think we can ever have a black president in Dominican Republic?
Of course. I think that, Peña Gomez, he was the greatest mass leader of our country. He's a symbol. He not only was part of the Partido Revolucionario Dominicano, but his influence was a lot more than the party. But I think particularly that Peña Gomez made a mistake.
Okay.
That was the thing that didn't finally got him elected. There are historians that said that Peña Gomez actually didn't accept the 50+1 rule in the constitutional reform, where you needed the 50% of the votes plus one. But
there was something too that they were gonna give him 2 years, then he didn't accept.
they Balaguer offered him like 2 years you, 2 years myself.
Okay.
If you ask me, like Orlando, my opinion, I will accept the 2 years. Yeah, but I will tell him the first 2 years are mine.
Okay.
And then you do, you can get in charge of modifying, because I tell you that I will take the 2 years first myself, because you don't know with Balaguer if he's gonna accomplish this what he was offering to Peña Gomez. But I think that this country is forever gonna be repented of not having a president like Peña Gomez. Peña Gomez was very intelligent. Was an amazing guy, has this charisma.
Yeah.
I mean,
the speeches.
I really don't think that he wasn't elected because of his social of his race, or
You don't think so?
No, I don't believe that, because Peña Gomez, his influence was everywhere here,
But-
in the business area, in politics, in social issues. Peña Gomez was an international leader. Peña Gomez arrived to France in the 80s, and Mitterrand received him like in the airport. I mean, he was a leader beyond Dominican Republic.
But maybe not because he was. But let's say, if we have to go into that dynamic, right? Maybe not because he was black, but maybe because he was Haitian. Because there was a whole campaign. Like against him, that he had Haitian roots.
There were people, very bad people. Unfortunately, some of them are still in our political landscape that made that campaign to discredit him.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that the people who were followers of Peña Gomez, that entered through one ear and got along and got outside the other.
Okay.
People in this country who knew Peña Gomez knew that those were fake accusations. Obviously, you always have some fanatics that thinks that, that believe in that type of things. But I really think that the one mistake he made was to accept that 50% plus one. Because if he hadn't accepted, he would have been president of the Dominican Republic in 1996. Unfortunately, he had health issues after that.
Yeah,
and
he was gonna be like.
He was mayor in 1982, 1986, and then again he wanted to be mayor, and he had health issues. He had cancer, and he died in 1998. But I'm a firm believer that Jose Francisco Peña Gomez, if he hadn't accepted that pact with Balaguer, Peña Gomez would have been the president of the Dominican Republic from 1996 to 2000, and we don't even know if he would have reelected himself and would have been president again in the year 2000. There's something people probably don't, because the PRD, we had this believing that we are against reelection or consecutive reelection. Actually, that was a narrative that Peña Gomez had to spread because of Balaguer. Because Balaguer, he reelected with fraud, and Peña Gomez, I think his speech against reelection was because of what Balaguer had done with the reelection. But actually, I think Peña Gomez would have been a great president, and I think that one mistake cost him his opportunities of being president.
Okay, good. That's good to know. Because I think, let's say me, just like I said, looking at this country and the history, I think if you guys would ever have a black president, it would also be a good opportunity to connect with the roots. Because the African roots that are part of Dominican Republic, it would be a good representation, I believe, of the country. Now let's go to your party itself, right? Tell us a bit about like what are your causes? What is your dream inside of like you as a congressman? What do you want to achieve?
Well, first of all, when you are a congressman, you have 4 years to try to achieve your agenda. Achieving your agenda inside the Congress is not so easy as people usually think it is. But in my case, I am a person who believes in technology.
Okay, yes.
I believe in the generation of opportunities for young people. I think that this country has a lot of talent. Unfortunately, some of that talent has left our country to pursue other opportunities in the United States, in Canada, or Europe, mainly in those countries. But I think that my first term in Congress, what I really want to achieve are laws and proposals, like for example, my Remote Work Act.
Yes.
I also deposited the Esports Act.
That's all, yeah.
And we're working on other acts and projects, but mainly our focus is technology as a partner in the development of this country.
And it should be.
Exactly.
It's a great route, by the way. It's a
great, people always tell me like, if you're from the left, if you're from the right, I mean, you can have social principles on how to manage social issues. But I believe that right now, the main ideology in the world is technology.
Yes.
And technology is associated to probably anything that you do since you wake up until you go to sleep. But what I'm really trying to, my Remote Act, my Remote Work Act, what we're trying to do with this act is to generate like the terms on which you're going to make a remote work contract, which we don't actually have because
it came with the pandemic.
The pandemic accelerated it.
Okay.
But in the Dominican Republic, it wasn't like part of a normal day in the labor world to be in remote work.
Okay.
But as the pandemic accelerated it, we sent a lot of people to their houses without clear rules on how you're going to work in your house and how me as an employer are going to help you to work in your house as an employer. Sorry. So we're looking to make the terms, like for example, if you're going to be like the 44 hours of the weekly labor hours in your house, how it's going to be. If you're going to have like a partial mode that you're going to have some days in the office and some days at their house, how it's going to be. How the employer has to supply with anything you need to work, computer, I don't know, cell phone, whatever. How I'm going to use for example, my energy or my telephone or my internet line to work. How are you going to give me something for that? Because I'm using my own resources.
Internet,
how I'm going to...
The bills.
Yeah. We're going to, for the first time in the Dominican Republic, we're going to have the right to disconnect.
Nice.
So when your day at work finishes, unless your boss tells you, we need you for 2 hours more, and you registered that as extra hours, you have you have the right to disconnect.
Yes.
You don't need to enter like to a Zoom meeting at 8 p.m. because you're in your house or because you're, I don't know, I mean, those things that happen in the pandemic. So remote work is amazing. I believe in that. I believe it's going to generate opportunities. For example, this is very important. This law is going to generate opportunities for a young guy in San Juan de la Maguana who probably thinks, I need to go to Santo Domingo to get a good job. He doesn't need to come here anymore. He can have a contract as a remote worker and stay in San Juan with his family. He doesn't have to come to Santo Domingo. So this is part of what we're doing with this Remote Work Act.
Okay, now it's very great that you want to go to that road of technology, but how about the educational part? Because,
amazing.
The people here, it's a developing country.
Yeah.
How do you try to manage that? The people, they would be able to use these laws for them.
Amazing. One of my areas of work as a congressman, not only in the legislative area, but also as a representative, is STEM education.
Okay.
I believe in STEM education
Nice.
as a motor to develop new capacities for our young people. We have a very big problem in this country, which is that our labor market is, it has the same areas of careers. I mean, you have a lot of lawyers, you have a lot of engineers, you have a lot of economists, people who studied, business administration,
Yes.
communications. And we need to understand that as a country, we need people, talents, who develop in the area of STEAM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Yes.
I mean, I think we were the worst country in the last PISA exams in math.
Wow.
That's a shame.
Because
I know this government is changing that, because even though the Minister of Education, Mr. Roberto Fulcar, he's pushing for STEM education in public schools.
Nice.
Because private schools, they are developing that, but we need to talk about public schools.
public school.
We
Get
need
these kids
we need
from-
kids
Yeah.
to develop this capacity. So I believe that if we as a country we take the STEM education, push it a lot, we're going to have a different country in probably 10 years.
Yes.
But if we don't do that, then all that we'd accomplished in 2 years of president working to get investments, to create opportunities, to handle the COVID, to handle the economy, we need the younger generations to develop in a educational system which pushes through other areas, that a little kid understand that if he studied mathematics, he's going to live with
He's
that.
gonna live with that. He's gonna have a
He's
job.
going to be someone very important, because you know what's happening today? People are taking decisions based on math,
Based on math.
even though
Statistics.
Yes. And we need this culture to get inside our country.
Yeah, and I think I really applaud you for that, because it's really what gonna let you go from that, let's say, gray zone to a really green
Yeah.
zone where you're gonna have like massive, different type of investment, because you're not only selling goods, you have to sell technology. And I think that's why like a country like China will always prosper.
Exactly.
Because like China see technology. That's why they're gonna be the first country with 5G. It's a different dynamic. I think like if DR can go that road, it's really gonna change the whole country. Because
I want to give you
in 10 years.
a breaking news
Yeah, tell
in your
us.
podcast. I'm working right now on a project of law for digital assets and cryptocurrencies.
Oh.
So that's our mindset. You understand?
Nice, awesome.
We're working on these things that.
We know El Salvador.
For example, El Salvador accomplished a law on that area. The States is pushing a lot this
Yeah.
type of digital currency, of digital assets. Other countries, and we cannot stay behind these countries.
Yes. And that's really, really amazing. Now let's also talk about your background as someone that studied that studied marketing, right? What makes someone a good candidate for your job as a publicist?
But you mean a candidate in politics?
Yeah,
Well,
because sometimes we see candidates, right, that are like they don't have a good they're not good candidates, and you would have like this marketing firm make them.
yeah. You know, today politics is also, or politics has become part of our show entertainment. So
Yes.
we have now social media, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Those are areas where you need also to spread your message. But for you to build like an image of a candidate that, that the first impression of someone is visual.
Yes.
So even on how you dress yourself, I don't know how. I've known people. I've known politicians in the Dominican Republic that, for example, their advisors told them you need to plant hair because you're getting, or you need to arrange. I don't know. Imagine you have things in your face. I mean, like you have to have laser operation. I've seen this in politics because people get attracted also with what they like, not only by what you say, but also how you look, how you dress, and normally politics, especially when you are a congressman, it's about communities.
Yeah.
So for you to be a congressman, you need a minimum of votes, and normally you take communities, you talk to those communities. Those communities they feel identified with you or your proposal. but they also identify with how you look, how you treat them. So there is a combination of image, ideas, how you talk, and mainly there is something very important in marketing and politics, that people confuse charisma with being a person with, with a lot of personality, with putting people, I don't know, maybe to make some jokes.
Yeah.
But charisma is really to be who you are. You are.
Yes.
So I remember when people told me, like, our president, when he was a candidate, like, Luis Abinader, he doesn't have charisma. I was like, what is charisma for you? Charisma is like being someone who, funny or no, charisma is being who you are.
Yes, I
But
like that.
normally, obviously, you need to let people to understand how you really are.
Yes,
That's charisma.
That's charisma.
Charisma is not being nor Ronald Reagan, who was like someone very extravagant, he had very, very good tactics for communication. I like a lot Ronald Reagan. Nor is to be Obama, for example, a modern politician with a lot of charisma, and by charisma I mean being Obama is a perfect example of a being himself, but also that concept normally people have of charisma. Like this guy who's very amazing in the way he speaks, the way he talks, how he treats you. But for example, you can have someone like Luis Abinader. Luis Abinader is a president that what I most like about him is that he really is himself. I mean, this guy you see taking coffee with old sportsmen in the countryside. I tell about sportsmen because he visited a glory of sports that is in a difficult situation. He went to his house. He took a cup of coffee with him. He talked about life with him. That's Luis Abinader. Probably Luis Abinader is not going to take a microphone and make 10 jokes. That's not his way.
That's not him.
But he's the guy who talks to you. He hears you. He likes to understand what's going on with you. So charisma is being who you are. And normally, a lot of people in politics don't understand that.
And I think it's a very, very good point. Why, for you, Gonzalo lost this election?
Well, that's a very, very good question. First of all, Gonzalo is not a natural politician. I mean, he has been a businessman. I think besides some accusations of corruption he had, I think he was a good manager at the Ministerio de Obras Públicas. And I think he was a guy who, with some objections, but he delivered results as a Minister of Obras Públicas. To get a guy and tell him, like, you're going to be presidential candidate tomorrow without political expertise, without understanding how politics works, without, I always tell something in politics. And then I go back to the question where you asked me if I was a privileged guy. No one achieves something in politics so easy. So if you don't have resistance, if you don't have hard work, if you probably don't lose 1 or 2 times, you're not going to achieve anything in politics. So I go back to Gonzalo. Gonzalo, they took him like, guy, you need to be presidential candidate tomorrow. Even him was in shock. I mean, like, guy, this is not me.
He looks like he was happy when he lost.
Yeah, he was like, okay, I already finished this. But Gonzalo, he's not a political product, or at least they tried to make him a political product, but that wasn't him.
That wasn't him.
That's not Gonzalo.
Yeah.
He tells this story about his father, who was a barber guy. He had a barber shop, and he was the son of a guy with a barber shop that came from Barahona. I mean, okay, nice, but actually the message didn't get to people because Gonzalo is not a politician. So I think that on the other side, you had Luis Abinader, who had very hard times.
He's been
Luis was
for a long time.
Vice presidential candidate in 2012. He then was the leader of a party. He lost an election in 2016, a very, very difficult election because you had all the power against you.
Yes.
A party who was basically recently born, and a guy who was focused, a guy who had a lot of time in contact with the base of the party, with a congressman, mayors, senators, a guy who also talked to businessmen. I mean, he really constructed a political career since his first steps. He wasn't a guy like, hey, you need to be our presidential candidate. And the case of Gonzalo is a very important case because it demonstrated that money is not all in politics.
Yes.
Because if it was for money, Gonzalo would have been president.
Yes.
He had all
he was everywhere. He was literally everywhere.
Literally. He had all the government support. He had a lot of money. They had a lot of people with money supporting him. And even though he didn't win the election.
He didn't win. And people really wanted him out.
Exactly. So people saw that you had two candidates. You had a guy who's showing you really how he is, which was Luis Abinader, and a product that they forced it to see if some people bought it, but most of the people didn't buy it.
Obviously, I'm from Haiti, and I've been living here for 2 years. What would you say to someone that thinks that Dominican Republic has to do with the instability that Haiti is facing right now?
I don't believe that. First of all, I think the Dominican Republic has been the most consequent country with Haiti. If we go back to the earthquake in 2010, the country that was first there helping, supporting Haiti was Dominican Republic. The government of then President Leonel Fernandez not only sent humanitarian help, but they built a university. And if my memory doesn't fail me, the two countries that really helped Haiti in that moment were Dominican Republic and the Vatican, which I remember sent also help. But then we have been trying to help in many ways. Haiti, for example, the government of Danilo Medina began the regularization process for humanitarian causes, also to help people that came from Haiti to the Dominican Republic to regularize themselves so they can have a job, they can have Social Security. And right now we have a president who wants to not only help Haiti, but he wants to really take the international community and, this is a responsibility of all of us.
Yeah,
and that's what Luis Abinader is really trying to do. But not only that, he's building hospitals in the border to try and help Haitians with needs of humanitarian causes. We are still exporting. Haiti's our first and main social partner of the Dominican Republic. So I think that obviously from Haiti and from the Dominican Republic, there are people trying to build a narrative as if we're enemies because of populism and trying to build like if we're enemies, and we are not enemies. We're, first of all, we share the same land. And I believe that all of our recent governments were really trying to help in some ways Haiti with their political situation and economic and social situation.
But let's say you as a congressman, how is the energy, let's say, towards Haiti? Do you guys are voting any laws that would protect Haitian or that would go against Haitian? Because we've seen the dynamic sometimes is not pro Haiti. How is the dynamic, let's say, for you in your case and in general?
Well, in my case, I believe that we need to get along with Haiti. Okay. Not only because we share a land, but because of all the opportunities I see with both. I mean, in between both nations. I mean, for example, you're a businessman who is doing business in the Dominican Republic. How many Dominican businessmen are not doing business in Haiti? A lot. Like many of the industries, the Dominican Republic, their primary market of exportations is Haiti. And we share a border with a binational market. There are businessmen, like, for example, I want to mention Fernando Capellan. He's a businessman from Santiago. He made a free zone, a free trade zone, business that employs a lot of Haitians. I mean, there is a lot of goodwill. And in my case, I've always wanted to be part of helping not only our country to develop itself in business in Haiti, but also politically helping our country to whatever we can help to Haiti to fortify democracy, its political class. You're going to count me in that. I know there are congressmen that, as I tell you, they have this speech of hate or this speech of we're enemies. We are not the same. I mean, we're not the same because we're two different countries. But I think as we are partners, and we need to be not only economical partners, but political partners. So I would like to see Haiti with political stabilized, with the president, prime minister. I know you have a parliamentary system, but I'm not happy is on how the international community is closing its eyes on Haiti, and they want only the Dominican Republic to help. And as our president said, we cannot help Haiti only by ourselves. We need the help of all the international community, France, United States, the islands of the Caribbean. I mean, everybody needs to help us to push Haiti forward.
And I think it's unfair to say that Dominican Republic has to solve Haiti problem.
Exactly.
It is unfair.
It's unfair.
I think it's absolutely unfair because Dominican Republic has their own problems. You know, they are trying to thrive. They are trying to get their the economy forward and to have this kind of like a charge of it. And I think it's for us Haitian to see like, you know what, this country is for us. We have to get together and then like really make sure that we move forward.
Exactly.
How do you see the political, let's say, environment in Dominican Republic in 5 years? Do you think Pereme would be, Abinader would be re-elected?
Yeah, I definitely think President Abinader is going to have a second term. The Constitution permits it.
Okay.
But mostly, President Abinader, he's been a leader in crisis in these 2 years.
Okay.
First, he had to handle the pandemic, which has been praised by other countries, by other presidents, by international organizations, and now he has to lead with this crisis of the war in Ukraine, which has obviously increased inflation, prices in basic products.
It's not easy.
But most important, President Abinader is pushing a real change, most important, of mentality in our country.
Yeah.
And you know what? Something that it really like frustrates me is like there are a lot of people who don't want to change in the Dominican Republic.
Okay.
But I know President Abinader is intelligent enough to see how all these guys who resist to change are gonna be behind his back supporting him, because what he's really promoting is real change. And the first change is in the mentality of us Dominicans, which we're accustomed to. Okay, I'm your friend. You know, you can help me if I did something wrong. You know, this is not gonna happen. But he needs 4 more years to accomplish not only this, but also a lot of plans he has for agriculture, for construction, for environment, for energy, for building, creating jobs, creating opportunities. He needs 4 more years to really accomplish his agenda, because these 4 years are going to be basically solving and being in the middle of crisis.
What do you think might not work on his favor to be re-elected?
Well, I think his first challenge is the inflation. I mean, the economic situation around the world. I think is his most important challenge. Okay. Remember, Bill Clinton said, "Is the economy stupid?" Yeah. So I think that phrase applies to this situation. But I think all the measures he's taking carefully are helping really, specifically the poor people, to get products at not so high prices, and he's battling inflation. I think that's his main challenge, because the opposition is divided. PLD and Fuerza del Pueblo, there are parties with difficulties right now. The PRM is unified. The PRM has a lot of talent, has a lot of good guys in government, and specifically has a president who has his attention on everything. Yeah. And he's trying to make the Dominican people have and be in the middle of this crisis with less pressure than normally it would have been.
For someone watching and listening to you, what would you tell them about you? What do you want to achieve in 5 years?
Well,
besides the laws and everything.
I want to inspire other people to get into politics. I mean, when I finish this term in Congress, I would like more young people to see and believe that if we get into politics, we can really accomplish things in favor of our society, in favor of our country. I would like to see in 5 years a party with more young people, people with new ideas, people who will boost our party into probably another step of helping our society. I would like to see people having real opportunities in our country, that the young people don't leave our country. I mean, that's what I see in 5 years that I want to accomplish, and where I really want to be is in a position that I can continue helping the Dominican society, particularly my area, Distrito Nacional. This is my city. Yeah. This is where I've grown up. This is where I lived. I love this city. I love the capitaleños. I love my district, Circunscripción número 1. Right now also I'm meeting people from Circunscripción 2 and Circunscripción 3, which are different like landscapes, I mean, in the political area. But I really want to be in a position where I can continue helping the country, my city, Distrito Nacional, and specifically young people. That's amazing. Pessimism is not the way to see our country. I mean, this is a country of opportunities, a country that helps you to be an entrepreneur, to help you have a good job. This is where I want to be. That's what I want to continue helping my society.
Awesome. Orlando, it was a pleasure to have you. Me, myself, have been really, just like I said, inspired because, you know, just like I said, in my country, they didn't teach us that. They didn't teach us to, you know, you can be involved. You can change that narrative. And I'm really glad that you're doing it. I'm glad that, you know, you're working with a government that have a lot of young folks, government that believe in that type of energy, and also you want to change, bring technology into the economy. Thank you so much for stopping by the bridge. It was a pleasure to have you. Any last word?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity, Marcos. I really admire your work, admire this initiative you have of the bridge. I think it's a very good name for probably in our generation is going to be the future of Haiti and our country. And I think with people like you, your country demonstrate that you have people willing to work together with Dominicans. And I just want to desire you success in this podcast. And hopefully we're going to be here next time.
Thank you very much. It's the end of this episode. This episode was really for me to understand, just like I said, the political background and history of Dominican Republic. I am from Haiti. All I've been hearing is like, we hate Dominican or Dominican hate us. But have we ever taken the time to sit down with a Dominican to know their background and know why we are in this journey right now? I hope this podcast will help you understand our brother so we can understand our relationship better. I hope you tune in for our next episode.